Tonight, millions of Americans on the move. The record holiday weekend returned home. Most of those travelers hitting the roads despite the highest gas prices in 4 years. A washout for much of the eastern half of the country. Heavy downpours leading to flash flooding. The dramatic rescue of an infant in Texas. More than 24 Boy Scouts on a canoe trip saved from rising waters. Those flood watches still in effect in the south from the Gulf Coast to Tennessee. And the return of summer to the Northeast. Our weather team times it all out. Terrifying images the moment a small plane collides with a paraglider's canopy. The paraglider falling thousands of feet in seconds. What happened next? The shooting outside the White House, what we're learning about the 21-year-old alleged suspect, and the new legal filing from the administration making the case for President Trump's ballroom. The all-out efforts to prevent an environmental disaster in Southern California. Tens of thousands evacuated from their homes. The late word from authorities, have they turned a corner? Pope Leo, the first American pope, teams up with some tech leaders, including a founder of Anthropic, urging safeguards for AI to protect the dignity of humankind. Mixed signals from the efforts to end the conflict between the U.S. and Iran. Are both sides getting closer to an agreement to reopen the Strait of Hormuz? Ian Pannell reports from the region. Reported Ebola cases in Central Africa surge amid a new warning from the World Health Organization, leading to renewed concerns with the World Cup set to open in less than 3 weeks. And a U.S. doctor speaks from his quarantine bubble. The warning for consumers tonight, officials urge residents not to throw lithium-ion batteries into the trash. The operation to return a baby red-tailed hawk to its home, one of its parents watching from above. And America Strong tonight on this Memorial Day, remembering the heroes who died for our country.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us on this Memorial Day. I'm Lindsay Davis in for David. We begin tonight with a dangerous flash flood threat stretching across several states in the South as millions of Americans make their way home from a record-setting holiday travel weekend. This dramatic video captures the heart-stopping moment when first responders pulled a baby from a car swallowed by floodwaters in Beeville, Texas, just north of Corpus Christi. In Fort Worth, Texas, storms swept across the sky with unrelenting force. A storm chaser captured this time lapse of dark clouds racing over the area. Thunderstorms and heavy rain created scenes like this on an interstate south of Birmingham, Alabama. And a group of Boy Scouts were rescued from fast-moving floodwaters during a river trip in West Virginia, leaving them trapped for nearly an hour. And a body was discovered in an SUV submerged in floodwaters in Mississippi. Our weather team is timing it all out, standing by with the forecast. But first, ABC's Gio Benitez leads us off tonight from Newark Liberty International Airport.
Tonight, those record-breaking numbers of holiday travelers are making the long trip home after a weekend that for many was a washout, from the rain-soaked Jersey Shore to the swamped drivers on Interstate 65 south of Birmingham. North of Corpus Christi, a flash flood emergency.
Give me the baby.
First responders racing to pluck a baby from a car that drove into floodwaters in Beeville, Texas.
I got the baby out.
Using their jacket to cover the child, everyone is okay. East of Cumberland, Maryland,
several Boy Scouts stranded out there in the river.
Nearly 30 Boy Scouts from Northern Virginia on a canoe trip took refuge on a riverbank after some of them capsized. First responders got them and their parents out of the swollen river. Torrential rain around New York City saturating the ground, taking down trees onto cars and homes. In Tennessee, school officials in Williamson County are defending their decision to continue graduation ceremonies Thursday despite this deluge. Today was the busiest day to drive, some 39 million hitting the roads for the holiday, despite gas prices hitting a 4-year high. The national average, $4.50, according to AAA. All told, experts say Americans paid $2 billion more for gas this holiday weekend than last year.
And Lindsay, while there were some issues and cancellations over in Dallas today, it actually was a pretty smooth Memorial Day at airports, and all of these travelers really prove that it's going to be a very busy summer of travel. Lindsay.
Smooth sailing, at least for the unofficial start of summer. Gio, thank you. And let's bring in meteorologist Jeff Smith from our New York station WABC. Hi, Jeff. Where is the greatest flash flood risk tonight?
Lindsay, right now we're targeting areas from southern Louisiana all the way up to eastern parts of Tennessee with a flood watch in effect. This includes Hattiesburg, Mississippi, which at this hour is under a flash flood emergency, a particularly dangerous situation there with multiple rounds of showers and thunderstorms kind of moving over the same locations. These will continue into the day tomorrow across much of the south as well. Elevated level 2 out of 4 flash flood risk. Southeastern Louisiana, including New Orleans, all the way up to parts of Alabama, and a good chunk of Texas, San Antonio, Austin, all the way up to Lubbock. Of course, much of the south has been suffering from a drought, but this is too much rain too quickly in a lot of these areas. Across much of the rest of the country, next 24 hours for post-holiday travel, fairly quiet, including a big warm-up along the East Coast, I-95 cities. Philly, New York, all the way up to Boston into the 80s tomorrow and especially into Wednesday. Lindsay?
We're looking forward to that. All right, Jeff, thank you. Now to a death-defying close call. A woman was paragliding over the Austrian Alps when a small plane flew right through her glider. That sent her hurling to the ground. Tonight, the extraordinary images and the split-second survival. ABC's Reeve has her story.
This is the moment a plane slams into the canopy of a paraglider, sending her plummeting toward the ground. The woman, named Sabrina, frantically reaches for her emergency parachute. It opens, but it's badly twisted, sending her spiraling wildly through the air. Then her backup chute finally catches air, Sabrina regaining control. Her shredded primary canopy seen dangling behind her, thousands of feet above the Austrian Alps. Tracking data shows Sabrina's path over the mountains, including the terrifying moment she dropped out of the sky, falling 2,000 feet in just 2 minutes. Sabrina later writing, "I actually still can't believe that I'm sitting here typing this, and that aside from a few nasty bruises and some general contusions, absolutely nothing happened." Police say the pilot of the plane never saw her until there was no time left to avoid impact. Somehow she managed to land safely.
And after escaping with only minor injuries, Sabrina was rescued from the side of a mountain in a police helicopter and taken to a nearby hospital for a precautionary check, Lindsay.
So glad to hear she is uninjured, Will. Thank you. And we're learning new details about that deadly shooting near the White House. The sound of gunfire sent reporters running for cover. Authorities say the suspect, who was shot and killed by Secret Service agents, had a history of incidents near the White House. ABC's senior White House correspondent Selina Wang was there and has the latest.
Tonight, new details about the man who allegedly opened fire near a White House security checkpoint and was fatally shot by the Secret Service.
Medic 1, respond for a shooting at 17th Street and Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest.
Authorities say 21-year-old Nasir Best of Maryland had a history of run-ins with law enforcement and was ordered to stay away from the White House grounds. Our team was yards away on Saturday night, preparing to go live on air when we heard a flurry of gunshots.
To remain far apart.
We have to evacuate shooting.
Reporters then sprinting to the press briefing room while the president was working in the Oval Office.
Let's go.
The Secret Service says a male bystander who was hit by gunfire is expected to recover. It comes weeks after a gunman stormed a security checkpoint at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. President Trump now pointing to this latest shooting to make the case for the White House ballroom. And in a new filing, the DOJ is urging a federal judge to allow construction, revealing the project includes a roof with a drone port and a spot for rooftop snipers. Court records show the suspect in Saturday's shooting was detained last June after blocking a White House entry and involuntarily committed for a mental evaluation. A month later, he was arrested after trying again to enter a White House checkpoint, telling officers he was Jesus Christ and wanted to get arrested.
Selina joins us now there at the White House. Selina, we know President Trump is pushing for the ballroom, but tell us about the growing pushback.
Well, Lindsay, that pushback is coming from even within the president's own party over his $1 billion request in taxpayer funds to build it. Now, the Justice Department is arguing that this ballroom is necessary for national security, describing Saturday's shooting as an attempted assassination of the president. Lindsay?
Selina Wang for us. Thank you. Today, President Trump delivered remarks at Arlington National Cemetery in honor of Memorial Day. The president honored the 13 service members killed during the war in Iran and vowed that country would never have a nuclear weapon. The president also participated in the traditional wreath-laying ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Now to the urgent race to prevent an environmental disaster in Southern California. Authorities say the risk of a catastrophic explosion of a chemical tank has been eliminated, but the crisis is not yet averted. And the district attorney is now launching a criminal probe into the incident. ABC's Alex Stone has the latest.
Tonight, after days of concern over this chemical storage tank in Southern California potentially causing a catastrophic explosion, a sigh of relief for residents as fire officials say they've avoided the worst-case scenario.
We are happy to report that the threat of a levee is now off the table.
Authorities believe a crack on top of the tank has lowered the pressure and temperature inside and eliminated the risk of a boiling liquid expanding vapor explosion or a levee. But authorities are cautioning it's not over.
We have a threat for a fire/small explosion and a leak.
Authorities announcing tonight some of the 50,000 residents evacuated from this 10-square-mile zone can begin returning home.
I expected a really relaxing Memorial Day weekend. It's been really hard.
Until the threat is fully eliminated, firefighters say they're working around the clock to get people back into their homes.
We need the public to keep to those evacuation zones.
And tonight, Orange County prosecutors announcing they're opening a criminal probe into how this happened. Lindsay, GKN Aerospace, a company that owns a tank, says it will not be commenting on that investigation. Meantime, President Trump tonight has approved a disaster declaration for this area. Lindsay.
Alex, thank you. Overseas now to Pope Leo, warning about the risks from artificial intelligence. The first American to lead the Catholic Church is calling for robust regulation and urging developers to work for the common good rather than for profit. ABC's Tom Supi-Burge has the details.
Tonight, Pope Leo warning world leaders to install safeguards for some of AI technology's most disruptive effects.
I hear very troubling accounts of algorithms that can block access to healthcare, employment, and security on the basis of data tainted by prejudice and injustice.
In his first ever papal encyclical, the Pope recognising AI's power to heal, connect and educate, but underlining the need to protect human dignity in an age when technology threatens to replace so many jobs and change the way we live.
Artificial intelligence now demands to be disarmed, freed from logics that turn it into an instrument of domination, exclusion, and death.
The Pope joined on stage by Chris Olah, co-founder of AI company Anthropic, who has been calling for the same regulations for years.
And Lindsay, Pope Leo also making an historic apology today for the role the Holy See played in legitimising slavery and for having failed to condemn it for centuries. Lindsay.
Quite a statement there, Tom. Thank you. Now to negotiations to end the war with Iran. Over the weekend, President Trump raised and then quickly lowered expectations that an agreement was near. And Iran is weighing in tonight, saying despite progress, no deal is imminent. ABC's chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell reports tonight from Tel Aviv.
Tonight, repeated mixed signals on a deal to end the war with Iran. Having said a solution was largely negotiated over the weekend, President Trump, 24 hours later, advising negotiators to not rush into a deal. The president even writing on Truth Social today that negotiations are proceeding nicely. It'll only be a great deal for all or no deal at all. Back to the battlefront and shooting, but bigger and stronger than ever before. A senior U.S. official telling ABC News a potential interim agreement would see the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, a lifting of the U.S. blockade, and a commitment from the Iranians to negotiate the removal of their stockpile of highly enriched uranium.
They're never going to have a nuclear weapon, and they know that. They know that.
But Iran again contradicting U.S. claims, saying many of the issues have been dealt with, but a signed agreement isn't imminent. And crucially, it's not discussing its nuclear program. President Trump also pushing intermediaries like Pakistan, Saudi Arabia and Turkey to sign on to the Abraham Accords, establishing diplomatic relations with Israel. But there's no sign any of these countries will do so.
Lindsay, the president repeatedly talking up a deal with Iran, but after more than 12 weeks of war, an agreement between the US and Iran appears as elusive as ever. Lindsay?
Ian Panel in Tel Aviv tonight. Thank you. The deadly Ebola outbreak in Central Africa is spreading rapidly. The number of suspected cases is now above 900, with more than 200 suspected deaths. 10 other African nations are now considered at risk. Here's ABC's Faith Abube.
Tonight, an alarming admission by the WHO as the Ebola virus, suspected to have killed more than 200 people, rages on in parts of Central Africa. The Director General saying despite a scramble to curb the spread, quote, the epidemic is outpacing us. Doctors suspect more than 900 people have already been infected. At least 10 African nations bordering the Democratic Republic of the Congo warned they now have an elevated transmission risk. With the World Cup less than 3 weeks away, the White House warning the Congolese soccer team, currently in Belgium, to stay away from their home country or risk not being allowed into the U.S. for their matches. Meantime, that American missionary doctor Patrick LaRochelle still showing no signs of the virus after he was medically evacuated to Prague. He remains isolated in this biobox chamber, saying he's amazed to see medical teams who are still fighting the virus, quote, not flinch or draw back in the face of so much danger and chaos. And Lindsay, U.S. citizens coming in from those affected areas can only fly into Atlanta and Dulles Airport for enhanced screenings. Those screenings will be expanded to Bush Airport starting tomorrow. Lindsay.
Faith, thank you. When we come back, the danger of lithium-ion batteries. Flames engulf the back of a garbage truck. One community is telling residents not to throw them in the trash. Firefighters to the rescue to save a baby red-tailed hawk. And from Monterey all the way to Honolulu, an American woman tries to become the first to row it alone. And on this holiday, born after the horrific losses of the Civil War, Americans remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice. Next tonight, an urgent search for two Utah brothers, toddlers ages 22 months and 10 months. The boys are believed to have been abducted by their father, who's locked in a custody dispute with their mother. Authorities have issued an Amber Alert saying that the children are facing imminent danger. And authorities in Northern California are urging residents not to throw lithium-ion batteries into the trash. The city of Roseville near Sacramento released this video showing the moment a fire caused by one of those batteries ignited in a garbage truck. When we come back, an American woman sets off from California hoping to make a historic journey to Hawaii, and firefighters with an unusual call, returning a baby hawk to its nest. To the index now, a baby red-tailed hawk was returned to its nest in Colorado Springs after falling 4 stories. Firefighters used a ladder truck to carefully carry the bird. Wildlife officials said that the chick was unhurt in the fall. An adult hawk watched over the entire operation. An American woman is hoping to row her way into history. Kelsey Fendler set off from Monterey on Thursday, hoping to row all the way to Honolulu. She's made the journey before, but never on her own. If all goes as planned, she would reach Hawaii in August, at least 80 days from now, becoming the first American woman to make the journey solo. When we come back, how Americans across the country are paying tribute to the fallen on this Memorial Day. Finally, Americans pausing across the country today to remember and honor those who gave their lives in the name of freedom. That sign says it all. Thanks to those who served, and thank you for watching. I'm Lindsay Davis in New York. Good night.